warroomsports.com. Get that mobile app.
What's up, basketball heads out there, and welcome to another edition of Court Vision, brought to you as usual by the Voltron team that is War Room Sports and Sports Kings. We are back with you guys to talk about, well, we're going to recap the NBA Finals. I think the series went too fast, fellas, because we were supposed to do like a mid-series show after Game 5, and, you know, not going to be able to do that, so we're going to have to wrap it up. So with me at the round table as usual, we got the homie Andy Flint from Sports Kings.
And tonight I brought no stats, but I got facts.
No doubt. We got Frank from Sports Kings.
I just want to take this opportunity to welcome D. Wade to the Stealing Money Hall of Fame. Monday is spaghetti night. Amari, D. Rose, and Andrew Bynum, they got like some joint custody with the knee braces, but I'm sure they can let you have a day.
Hey, Frank, you know, with Bosh and LeBron talking about opting out, D. Wade like, opt what? Yeah. If D. Wade opt out, he gonna get like a $2 million contract.
Wade like, yo, cut the check.
Then we got Jimmy the Blueprint from War Room Sports.
Yo, I just want to say happy 50th birthday to Wawa. They ain't cutting us a check yet. But, yo, for those who don't know what Wawa is, I just feel sorry for you, yo. Go Google Wawa and find the closest one. Never mind. Yo, Dev, tell them about Wawa, man. They got to know about Wawa.
Yo, Wawa is spreading down the East Coast now, so, you know.
Frank, tell me you know about a Wawa, Frank.
When I first came here, I couldn't get Wawa.
I'm about to Google that after the show.
Andy, you know Wawa, Andy?
I'm Googling it right now.
Just know that it puts 7-Eleven to shame. It's not.
You caught me up. I was going to know what it was.
Versus Jimmy, it's not even close. Is this
real?
Yeah,
it's literally the greatest thing ever, yo.
All right,
they're not even paying us, but I had to say that. That's how good it is.
So, rematch between last year's NBA Finals that, of course, we all know ended in 6 games in favor of the Heat. This year wasn't the case. 5 games and out. The San Antonio Spurs are now your NBA champions, their 5th title. This series wasn't really that competitive. The Spurs won 4 games out of the 5 games. Their closest margin of victory was 15 points. They just ran over this team. Fellas, why did the NBA Finals go down this way?
I'll start. I'll be brief. I honestly think that the Heat just ran into a juggernaut that was the San Antonio Spurs. It kind of reminded me Sorry. It reminded me of the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think any team would have beat the San Antonio Spurs, just like I don't think any team would have beat the Seattle Seahawks that day in the Super Bowl. Before the series started, I had 3 keys. Would Kawhi Leonard playing LeBron on defense affect his offense? Manu versus D. Wade, who plays a role better, and the pace of the game. All those went the Spurs' way, and that's what we saw. We just saw complete demolish. Yeah, they just demolished them. Yeah, they had no chance.
All 3 of those keys that you had, they ended up being the main keys. This is why they got blown out. Andy, what are your thoughts on why the series went this way?
Frank being clairvoyant.
You know what? It's really weird because I think Frank was the only one who picked San Antonio. I know Jimmy and I both. Dev, you picked the Heat too, right?
I picked the Heat in 7.
And I had him at 7, and Jimmy had him at 6. I remember Jimmy had him at 6. And it's crazy to me. Well, it's not crazy to me because I feel like if we would have really just used the logical portions of our brain, we would have figured out that the Spurs were by far, in a way, the better team. I think what happened was, at least for me, I know from my personal experience, I got caught up in LeBron's going to will them to win these games, and it's going to even the keel because Miami has three good players. Actually, Miami has 2 good players. It looks like at this point, and the Spurs have 9. and then they have 2 more that are better than anybody else on the Heat roster, not named Bosh, LeBron or Wade. But
the big 11.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we should have all known because of the way they dispatched Portland and OKC, and we just let that LeBron factor kind of to rule the decision. At least that was my takeaway.
What Andy's saying is you guys should have been more like me, but keep going.
No, I mean he's definitely right about that because I don't think that there's anybody on our panel that's even with us tonight or not with us tonight ever thought that Miami was a better team than the San Antonio Spurs. So it's nothing but the LeBron factor, the quote-unquote big 3, which, that nickname may have to change if somebody doesn't get healthy. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, if we're, my perspective is I probably in the 4 years that they've been together and been in the NBA Finals, I don't know if I've ever thought that they were the best team, but they had that top end talent, and that's one reason why I'm not that surprised at how it happened, because throughout this 4 years, we've said it, everybody else has said it, like these guys are basically one injury from their big three away from not being that good. Now, nobody really got injured, but Dwayne Wade plays like he's a cripple.
That's what happened is they lost. They lost.
Here's my perspective.
So if you lose strength in one of the big three, then they're not a good team at all.
Here's my perspective. I'm not shocked that the Spurs won this series. I am shocked, however, at how easily they won the series. I won't lie. If D-Wade wasn't even on their team, there's no way I saw them beating the Heat this way. I just didn't. I mean, I also fell for the LeBron hype, just like Andy said. I mean, I still consider LeBron to be the best player in the world.
Yeah,
and I fell for the hype. I fell for the hype that, listen, there's no way a team with LeBron on it can get demolished the way they got demolished. I mean, it just goes to show you, it's funny, we bring up the past and all these kind of things. When you see guys who are the best player, not never, but they don't win a title because they come against a superior team. The Spurs are a superior team. The coaching went all to the Spurs. The effort went all to – and it's like at some point in the series, it's like Miami just started playing. They looked defeated. I think Mario Chalmers may have had the worst series I've ever seen any player have. It's to the point where he wasn't even second string by the fifth game.
He played himself out of millions.
He played himself out of the rotation. Like, he didn't even get into the fourth quarter last game. Like, it was crazy. Like, they got cooked by a grown man named Patty. Like Frank said,
Rashard Lewis was eating up minutes.
Like, it just looked terrible by the end of the series. Like, listen, I'll be honest with you. I never would have thought the Heat would have got handled this way. I thought that if they did lose, they would lose in 7 games, and I thought that the home court advantage would be what made them lose, but I didn't see this coming. Even with and I said D-Wade, we joked about how D-Wade and Ginobili, who played better, that would be a key in the series. I mean, it was. But even joking and saying that, I didn't think they would get smacked this way. Like Dev said, this wasn't competitive at all.
Yeah, and we also have to remember the huge chip that San Antonio had on their shoulder coming in because of last season, and they thought, they should have beat the Heat in 6 games last season. We all know how that ball bounced, and it went the other way. So this has been on their mind the whole time. Like, from what I hear, it's like they didn't just want to win the NBA Finals. They wanted that matchup no matter what. And they got the matchup they wanted, and they beat the crap.
It's funny you bring that up, Dev, because a lot of people talked about that before the series, like that intangible thing, like, they have that, built up thing from last year. And I think it played a much bigger role actually on the court. I feel like we talk about these things a lot, like hypothetically, and then they don't actually play out on the court. But I think that played a much bigger role than anybody would have imagined before the series started.
And I urge you people out there watching, and I'm close to the camera right now because you gotta hear what I'm about to say. Let's give San Antonio some credit.
Oh, yeah.
Stop blaming LeBron. Cut it out. It's a garbage. It's a joke. I mean, we're talking about one of the better teams that I've probably ever seen in San Antonio. I mean, at least in the last decade. And I can't think of a team besides like the Pistons in the early 2000s who were that good of a team.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, wait a minute. Hold that thought. Hold that thought, because we're definitely going to get to that. But I'm going to segue into something else since you kind of brought it up just now. The whole LeBron James factor. We brought it up a little bit earlier. There's 2 sides of the coin right now. There are the people who are just all out blaming LeBron because they lost. I mean, you knew those people were going to do that, regardless of how it went down. He could have scored 70 a game, and those people would have blamed him. And then you have the other side of that coin where a lot of people are saying that LeBron had no help. At times, to me, it sounds like a bit of an excuse. But if you look at how everything played out, there has to be a little bit something to it. What are you guys' thoughts on, the whole LeBron didn't have help versus the LeBron is to blame for this series factor?
Frank, tell him what to do with all those people.
We need to take the LeBron haters and the LeBron lovers. We just put them in a separate room in like a separate country. Just let them hash it out, kill each other, and then we can just sit here and actually just talk rationally about things. You know what I'm saying?
They're not going to talk rationally. That's just going to end
All right, here's my point, Dev. The only problem with that is, did LeBron have help when they were playing the Pacers? Did LeBron have help when they were going through the Eastern Conference? Yeah. I mean, it's the same team that a couple weeks ago everybody was talking about how great they were. I mean, so the team didn't show up. Let's be honest. They didn't show up. But at the end of the day, I mean, you ride or die with your team. The one thing I can say is, and listen, B. Austin's not here, so I'm getting ready to give Michael Jordan some credit. And I'm not comparing LeBron to Mike because that irritates me to no end. But a lot of times watching basketball, what I realize is when you have teams that have like top-heavy or superior talent, sometimes that works as a detriment. Being a Lakers fan, there were several times. To give you an example, that Pistons series. Sometimes like teams will roll in thinking like we have this talent, so we'll just show up and we'll beat the other team. When the other team is in fact a cohesive team that plays as a team.
Plus
you know what I mean?
Plus the rest of that team, have the tendency to sit around and watch their top end.
Yeah, like I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait for anything. Like they're like LeBron is there, so we're never out of a game. You know what I mean?
Cleveland circa 2007, 2008. I mean, it was that all over again. And I think it was all through the playoffs. We just didn't notice it because
but the reason I was saying I'm gonna give Mike credit is because Mike's Bulls team is probably the last team I remember that had the best player or the best players with him and Pippen. Where they didn't take it easy. They closed out series, and they always competed at a high level. It didn't matter who they were playing against. They know how to like kill opponents, and the Heat never really had that.
Yeah. See, but that's a good point, Jimmy, because that's my thought when I keep hearing the excuse side of the thing. The LeBron had no help. Like this team was put together, and a lot of people who didn't even believe in the Heat when they first did it. That's the main point that they were going to. Like, well, they paid these three guys the bulk of the money, so they can't really fill out the roster the way they want to. But with those three guys 100% healthy, you always have a chance to dominate any team that you're playing with.
And it worked until
exactly. But and it worked twice. I mean, you could say it worked 4 times. They've been in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. Let's make a quick point. People talk about this, but let's be honest. Whoever your favorite team is, if they made the 4 straight finals and they won 2 out of the 4, I mean, that's still a hell of an accomplishment. The fact of the matter is, it's LeBron James, so he's a polarizing figure. He's probably the most popular athlete in the world, not just basketball in the world, well, except for some of them soccer dudes. As you can see, I'm not a soccer fan. But anyway, so he's a polarizing figure, and love him or hate him, he's going to get the blame. He's also going to get all the credit, which is why we have, the LeBron haters who are out of control, and also the LeBron people who like to rub his prostate all day long. And it's going to be that way. It's going to be that way. So the fact of the matter is, like, they still had a hell of an accomplishment. But Andy's also right. No one's really giving the Spurs their props. It's like all about what LeBron didn't do. But the Spurs played a tremendous series.
That's what I thought it was. I mean,
LeBron did stuff.
I thought it was the Spurs.
Yeah, and LeBron played well.
Nobody.
I'm not gonna say played well, but
yeah. Put it this way: statistically, LeBron played well, and I don't think there's ever going to be a time because he does so much. He gives you so much, scoring, rebound, assists. He does everything, and he can fill up a stat sheet. I don't really think there's ever going to be a time where LeBron James just gets shut down statistically. Mm-hmm. But what I can say the Spurs did do, even with LeBron, was they kind of limited what he did to rather meaningless moments because they were blowing the doors off the Heat most of the series. So even
he had a premier defender on him.
And even when LeBron gets on a little spurt and he's playing well, it never really did anything to gain any ground on the Spurs because on the other end, Miami was playing no defense, and that's LeBron included because he had a lot of lazy defensive moments in this series, getting out to shooters and
Kawhi Leonard was shooting open threes all series.
Yeah, and the way those guys were swinging the ball, it's like the Heat just couldn't believe that somebody could actually move the ball for that long on the shot clock, and by the end of the shot clock, they just gave up.
They like nobody does this in the East.
I honestly thought that I thought Jimmy's analogy to the Lakers Pistons series was perfect. I think this series reminded me of that series a lot. Even Rick Fox said on NBA TV that by Game 4, like the Lakers still didn't believe that the Pistons could beat them. I think the same thing happened to the Heat here. I think they would have lost regardless, but I think that it would have been a much more competitive series. But the Heat honestly didn't think the Spurs could beat them probably until about Game 4 in Miami when they were still getting blown out at home.
Last night, like the third quarter.
At that point, it's way too late.
When they put Rito in the game for the first time.
We lost. Put Rio back in.
To the LeBron point, I mean, I think it's an excuse to a degree, but for me, like if you were to list the top 10 players in this series the way they played, LeBron's probably the only person that makes that list. Maybe Chris Bosh makes it like somewhere 8 through 10.
Well, Beasley.
See, and with Chris Bosh, Frank, it's the same as I always thought. I don't think his performance was just because he went in there and stunk the joint up. I just think on this team he never fit. He kind of gets in the way of what the top two guys do, so they've relegated him to perimeter big who stands out there and shoots. He tried to get aggressive last night, too little too late. You're already getting your ass kicked.
And to be honest, I think what happened with this Heat team is last year when they won, I think we can all agree that they should not have won that series. I think everybody agrees with that they stole that series in Game 6 and won it in Game 7. And
I refuse to agree with that. I'm not doing it.
It kind of reminds me of the analogy where you talk about like the hardest. We all know these people that like can go out and eat McDonald's every day, but they don't get fat. Like somehow they just don't gain weight. But like that doesn't mean their cholesterol isn't like.
I hate you.
It doesn't mean their cholesterol is not 400. You know what I mean? Like they're eating McDonald's every day. It's unhealthy. That's what happened to the Heat last year. Like they were eating McDonald's and they're unhealthy. They needed a roster change, but because they won the championship, they didn't see that. So they tried to go with the same roster that they had last year. That probably wasn't good enough to win a championship. Even
that was because their stomach was full of those McDonald's French fries. That was
a nice B. Austin analogy. You didn't know where I was going with it until the end.
Shout out to B. Austin. Shout out to B. Austin. Frank had to hold it down for you.
I got family members like that, man, and they clown me because I got a couple extra pounds on. But, I eat salmon and like chicken breasts all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, you may look like that, and I may look like this, but if they cut us open.
Only one of you is going to live till 75. Just remember.
But here's the thing, though. With that being said, that's the crazy thing about how they always say sports is can change just with small little things. If Ray Allen doesn't make that shot, if they don't win that, how will this whole big three getting together even look at this point? They would have been LeBron would have been 1-5 in the finals.
Yeah, I
mean that everything changes, and this is funny because it reminds me of when you read the books of the Wilt Chamberlain versus Russell thing and how Wilt was always looked at the same way LeBron is now, but the fact of the matter is Russell had better teams. He always had better teams. The best team usually always wins. I mean, last year it didn't happen that way. But also, if you play for the Spurs, I mean, does this really change any? Aren't you more pissed now about last year because you could have been the back-to-back champion?
You could be back-to-back.
Technically, won last year.
Tim could have 6.
Well, not technically, he lost, but still. I mean, he would have 6 right now.
He said, technically, I'm an astronaut.
Yeah, technically they lost. But we all know, I don't even know how to put it because, they can't. I've never seen a team come that close and have it pulled away.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about Dwayne Wade because, like we said, he kind of looks like a shell of himself. I don't think, because a lot of people – now, this is another LeBron factor. I mean, there are certain people who are just being honest about Dwayne Wade's play, but there are certain people that I know that I talk to every day that for the last 4 years, they attack Dwayne Wade on every mistake he makes because it kind of makes LeBron look better if Dwayne Wade is playing like trash. He's definitely a shell of himself. I don't think Dwayne Wade forgot how to play basketball. I think it's obvious that his body is failing him at this point. But it was crazy to watch him, a guy that they used to call Flash, perform these slow moves and these spins and try to do fakes that nobody's going for because
they're the names he wearing.
It's you can't believe that this is Dwayne Wade. Think about Manu, at his age and coming down the lane and cramming on Bosh. Dwayne Wade wouldn't even have made a layup in that situation. It was crazy. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is permanent or is this just something he's going through right now?
It's permanent because most of his game was predicated off of speed and athletic ability, and now that he doesn't have that, what does he have? I mean, we watched who else did that happen to? Tracy McGrady. I mean, a guy who's Dwayne Wade's never been a great jump shooter. I think that's what saves these guys sometimes. Like a guy like Kobe could be saved because he can post up, he can shoot shots. I mean, even if he's hurt, he's going to get points. But Wade, I mean, Flash, he's undersized too. He's 6'4". I mean, I think he's done. R.I.P. Dwayne Wade.
That's exactly why he just fell off the earth so fast because, like you said, he was never a great jump shooter to begin with.
Well, he's getting $20 million next year.
Take you guys back to his early days, and I think we remember. I remember a lot of people saying this. The way that he played, he was kind of Allen Iverson like, where he would always get hit. He was always on the ground, and a lot of people said, "Yo, the way he's playing, his career is going to be short." I mean, it's not short, relative to people who.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that
But as a superstar, he can be able to go another 4 years in his prime, and he can't.
It's the same thing people say about Derrick Rose now. I mean, hopefully he comes back, but we didn't know it would be this short. But the way they play like a running back. Like they take so many hits. They play physical basketball playing on the wing. So it was bound to happen, but. Like Andy said, it just happened so fast out of nowhere. I mean, he was definitely a shell of himself. I blame it on the Lee Ning shoes because they got to blame this on somebody. Like it was difficult to watch because
I was embarrassed for him, Jimmy. Like when he would go into the lane and spin and fake, and Manu or Danny Green is just standing there like, I'm not going for that.
Yo, Danny Green ripped him like 3 times in the first half yesterday.
Give me your candy.
Danny Green.
I definitely think it's permanent. The only hope he has is, I mean, Dwayne Wade's a Hall of Fame player. I don't think anybody's here to argue that. The only hope he can have is a lot of times you see Hall of Fame type players basically change their game, remold it. We saw Kobe do it, but like you said, Dwayne Wade's undersized, so I don't know if he can get a post game. I don't know how advantageous that is to him. But the main word, like Jimmy said, it was just kind of sad to watch. I didn't want to watch it. It was just really sad to watch Dwayne Wade. Like it got to a point where he had Boris Diaw on him, and I didn't expect Dwayne Wade to get past it. Like I didn't expect Dwayne Wade to have enough speed and agility to get past Boris Diaw.
Yeah.
And just think about that in perspective to what we think Dwayne Wade is. When you get Boris Diaw on you, and you're just thinking like, I don't know what he's gonna do. Dwayne Wade can't get around him.
It's definitely sad. I'm sad. Like my homie PJ said, the only hope that Dwayne Wade has is to take a lot of rest this all season and load up on noni juice. Maybe like the noni juice will do him some good. Outside of that, man, I just don't know what he can do at his size, his age, his speed. Like I never want to count him out. I never want to count him out because I mean he's definitely one of the best at his position of all time. Some people say what is it? Mark Jackson is top 3 of all time at 2 guard. I don't know about that, but he's definitely top 10.
I mean, he was dominant. There was people questioning whether he or LeBron James or Kobe were the best player a few years ago. I mean, before LeBron went to Miami. I mean, Wade was.
That's another reason I didn't like the team up. I thought that you could have gotten a real rivalry out of LeBron and Wade since they played in the same conference, as opposed to the contrived rivalry of LeBron and Kobe. But they listened to Drake, though. They didn't even want to do anything like that.
And real quick, the other reason why you got to think it's permanent is that if there was any season where Dwayne Wade was going to be healthy and spry, it was going to be this season. I mean, they rested him like half the regular season. He didn't basically play during the playoffs until the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, they swept the Bobcats. He didn't really break a sweat.
And even this season, he had flashes. He was. They say not Flash, but
Flashes.
That's what Jalen Rose
that's his new nickname.
Flashes now.
He's just flashes.
Yeah, right. That's what Jalen calls them, flashes. But no, it actually fit because there were certain times in the course of the season where you're like, okay, there goes D-Wade. And you were thinking like, okay, well, they're resting him. He's going to do that. But by the time the finals happened, he had nothing left. left.
It's sad. Brandon Roy did the same thing a little bit. I mean, like, you get but remember though when he was hurt and then he was coming back and he would have that 20-point game and you would be like, oh, Roy's going to be okay, and then it was like.
I still think what Andy said is all you need to know. Whenever you have an accurate comparison to Brandon Roy, that's it.
And I still think Mario Chalmers was worse than D Wade. So that shows you how bad he played.
He was terrible. The thing is there was like several players who were worse than D Wade still.
That's the worst thing is like that's why That's why they keep Mario Chalmers on the team too, is to like come through in like clutch situations. Like he's useless the other times, and then for some reason in big games, Mario Chalmers usually comes through and hits a 3 or something. Like
big games this series, he didn't even get in. Like I'm telling you, that's bad.
Spo
They
was
were getting
scared of him.
abused by a grown man named Patty.
Patty.
Yeah,
Patty.
Patty was on fire, man. So,
Patty.
man, I'm like, you just gonna keep letting them shoot? Like you gonna keep just leaving them open and letting them
He's
shoot?
not,
Patty
even that,
lives-
he's not even that good.
You know, Patty lives in heat check mode too. Like Patty like comes in a heat check.
Yeah,
And people,
No, it's
people need to
funny.
quit using the excuse that LeBron is with 3 Hall of Famers because Ray Allen ain't been a Hall of Famer in like 5 years. I'm so sick of hearing
I'm still on the fence about Ray Allen being a Hall of Famer in
I
the first place, but that's just me.
he's gonna be.
Yo,
that second ring seal that
No, I'm not saying he's not gonna be.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking
No,
about if I had a vote, you know, because that we already know that the criteria to get into the Hall of Fame is not what it should be. So, you know, we do a little HOF or FOH segment on our show where we have our own Hall of Fame, and we got to vote to see if they get in. But I'm still on the fence about whether Ray Allen's a Hall of Famer in the first.
The one thing I love about like the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl, even the World Series, is like you have guys who play well, and the next thing you know, like they're just automatically thrust into like, yo, he's the best in the league at this. You know how many people I saw last night saying that the Sixers gotta sign Patty Mills. That has to be at the top of their list next year. They should sign Patty Mills. I'm just
And they
laughing
gotta
like,
realize that
Paul
Patty Mills is
Williams.
not going to shine.
Sign Patty Mills.
Team like that.
Patty Mills. Listen, man, this is the great thing about the Spurs, right? And
Patty
you have to give the Spurs credit because they have a system. Their team buys into it. But it's not just the coach. Yo, even from the general manager to the owner, like they run their system, and their system is their system. And it works. They find players that fit their system.
But they
As
know if
opposed to
they're on the
trying to-
court, they're getting the ball too because that ball moves. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm saying you have to have certain guys that are willing to play that way. Like there's certain probably stars in the league who wouldn't be willing to play in that system that way. This is the one thing that I do give Tim Duncan for. As he got older, he didn't care about being the man or being the first option. Right. He just fell back, allowed Tony Parker to shine, and now they're saying Kawhi is the new guy. Like we'll get into that.
Jimmy, I've been talking to people lately, you know, because you know, a lot of people are saying Tim Duncan is the greatest player of this era, you know, over Kobe, over Shaq, stuff like that. And I'm not sure if that's true. I mean, he's very consistent. He's in a very consistent franchise. But, you know, it's been a minute since Tim Duncan was that dominant player. Yeah. Like, there isn't really superstars and then a supporting cast on the Spurs. It's like everybody's a member of the supporting cast. Yeah. Even Tim Duncan, even though his name is Tim Duncan, and you know he's arguably the greatest power forward ever. He prolonged his career by being able to fall back, like Jimmy just said.
And I give him credit. I definitely give him credit for that. And I've questioned Pop in the past. I think it's kind of fishy how he became the head coach. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look that up.
It really is.
Listen,
I'd have came downstairs too if I.
Yo, but those dudes are yo, he's their dad. They're afraid of him.
Dad.
Did you see at the end of the game when Tony Parker didn't even want to mention him? He's like, Pop doesn't like that, so I'm not even going to say anything.
Talk about him.
I'm like, yo, the series is over, and you're still shook. Like,
I might get a spanking. I'm telling you,
they have bought in.
It's that Patriot way, that Spurs way, that Patriot way. It's the same.
Yo, did you see when they made Pop hug Danny Green because he was so mean to him all season?
But a head coach needs to be like that, though. I was scared to death of my little league coach. My little league coach, if I missed the ball at third base, he would give me catcher's gear and just hit line drives at me. No glove.
Yo,
I was afraid to death.
How many coaches get that respect at that level? You know what I mean? Like, you don't see it that often.
Once you get to the pros and you're making more than the coach, like you don't.
All the coaches that are trying to do that now are on the unemployment line because they're too mean. They start playing.
But that's what I'm saying about finding guys that are willing to buy in. Like, yo, no one's doing that to Mike Brown. Like, you're just not.
Mike Singletary.
Yo, Jerry Sloan tried that with Darren Williams, and all of a sudden.
And Jerry Sloan is one of the greatest ever, and they got him out of there.
They were just like,
Darren Williams
can't do that.
They didn't do anything. It was all D. Will. D. Will was like, yo, I can't. Right. Only way I'm staying is if you get rid of the old guy. And then he left.
Keeping that in mind, what you guys have been saying about the Spurs and the system and stuff like that, you know, Kawhi Leonard in the last 3 games of the series, for me, I think his confidence was rising on every possession because he was, you know, he just started to do things that I've never even seen him attempt to do. He's he's this year's version of Paul George. I'll say that. He had a really good series, kind of like a coming out party on the biggest stage. Maybe, Paul George was in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they both were against, the Heat and LeBron James. So Kawhi Leonard is kind of this year's Paul George, and everybody's talking about how he's about to be a superstar in this league. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think that he's in a situation where the Spurs system is really going to prevent him from being that guy, or can he even be that guy?
Yo, he needs more people. I understand the need to want to crown somebody right away, but you have to do it on a consistent basis, man. I mean, he did it at the right time. Let's not get it wrong. You did it at the right time, but you have to put together a body of work. We're not into crowning somebody after having a great series. Let's see how you come back next year. And also, I don't know if he can do that with him being the number one option or that go-to guy, because, like Dev said, in that system, there is no number one option or go-to guy. I would think that it'd still be Tony Parker at this point. He makes everything happen with getting in the lane.
Everything he did, not much of that came from Kawhi Leonard creating his own shot. And there's a thing going around. Everybody's comparing him to Paul George, and I keep hearing a lot of people, taking Kawhi Leonard over Paul George at this point. Kevin Durant tweeted about that with some guy who said he would take Kawhi Leonard over Paul George, and Kevin Durant told him that he was tripping.
Listen to the guy who
Bleacher Report got a hold of that, blew it up like he was saying more, like he was hating or whatever, so he ended up deleting the tweets. But I actually agree with what Kevin Durant is saying. Like, Paul George, I think, I don't think he's that superstar yet that everybody wanted him to be last year after his good series. But at the same time, I think he has one of the better skill sets in the whole NBA. And I don't think Kawhi Leonard is there yet. I still don't know if Kawhi Leonard can create for himself off the dribble. He seems kind of slow. I don't really see quickness in Kawhi Leonard. He's shooting threes just like everybody else on the Spurs is shooting threes, mostly wide open. He did pull up on that three on the break, and that surprised the hell out of me because that's one of those confidence plays I was talking about. Like, I'd never seen Kawhi Leonard do anything like that before. So I do think he has a ceiling that he hasn't reached yet, but I don't see his ceiling really being superstardom. I like the guy, so I hope I'm wrong, but I think people are a little premature on the Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, but one thing I can say is he does fit the Spurs system probably more than Paul George or anything like that.
See, I definitely think he has a very high ceiling, but I just want to echo a lot of Jimmy's thoughts. This is why I hate sports fans. Like, you always want to crown somebody. It's the problem with this country. Like, everybody wants instant gratification. Like, you guys just want Kawhi Leonard just to be the third best player in the league now, off of no body of work, just like one series. And I don't doubt that he could be, but what are you going to do? Pop made a point to say in the post-game press conference that he drew no plays up for Kawhi Leonard. There was not one play drawn up that said, okay, Kawhi's getting the ball and he's going to take a shot. But that's not going to, the Spurs system now isn't going to last forever in the sense that, Tim Duncan's old, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. What are you going to do when Kawhi Leonard is your best player? What is Kawhi Leonard going to do? He may blossom, he may shine.
That's when Pop leaves the job the same way he came in.
Goes out on top. But you know what I mean? How can you crown a guy without even giving him the opportunity to perform with the expectation of you're the best player? A team's going to game plan against Kawhi Leonard. How's Kawhi Leonard going to handle that?
That's the thing is no team is game planning against Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly. Nobody's done that yet. And it's not a slight on Kawhi. He very well might perform up to that standard when the time comes, but to crown him now makes no sense.
Right.
And teams
Frank, this kind of reminds me, they were on this path last season in the finals with Danny Green before he fizzled out. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, Danny Green is this and that, and he's
the next Ray Allen.
So it's like, calm down, let it play out a little bit. That people are already making Paul George comparisons. Paul George came back with expectations and had a hell of a season until whatever happened in that locker room towards the end, and he kind of fell off a little bit. So let's at least give Kawhi that chance, because we keep saying series. Really, it was only 3 games, because after game 2, everybody was saying, where the hell is Kawhi Leonard, because he had played better last season in the finals.
Yeah.
I just give the guy a chance.
We watched Paul George do it, though, too, is the other thing. We watched Paul George do it as the guy, and we haven't seen it for Kawhi Leonard yet. That's the reason why I think those comparisons are kind of ignorant, because Paul George has done it with teams game planning for Paul George.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to say, with that being said, shout out to Kawhi Leonard for playing the way he did play.
Absolutely.
It's not you, Kawhi. It's them.
Yeah, definitely. He wins what I like to call my Cedric Sabalas Award, because Cedric Sabalas is the only player I've ever seen play in the NBA who will average 20 points a game and never have one play ran for him. He never had one play ran for him. He would just hustle, get it on the break, tip-ins, but he would average 20 a game.
They would even throw Chris Gatlin the ball in the post.
Yeah, they never ran a play for Sabalos, and he still put up 20 a game one season. I'm like, how you do that?
But you guys, where the talk, why the talk is what it is because it happened on the biggest stage. Like, you still try to calm people down. Like, of course, it was the NBA Finals. You know what I'm saying? But it was still just 3 games. But
listen,
the fact that it was 3 games in the finals, he won the Finals MVP. That award comes with an allure that I never really thought was.
Honestly, my question for those people is, how often do you actually see somebody's coming out party in the NBA Finals? Like, how often do you see a guy that was basically not a superstar and then has a great NBA Finals and all of a sudden he's a superstar? How often does that ever happen? I would probably say it's probably never happened.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. What's the
no.
shout out to Jim McCarthy. What's the dude's name that played for the Steelers? As a matter of fact, no, he didn't play for the Steelers.
Antonio Brown is still not better than Victor Cruz. That's what
my God, here we go.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Who was the guy's name that played in the Super Bowl? And I think it was Steelers quarterback that was throwing him the ball directly to him. He had all those interceptions in the Super Bowl. The Raiders gave him $1 gazillion based upon that one game. You guys know who I'm talking about. What's the guy's name? Was it Neil O'Donnell a Steelers quarterback?
He was in
I think they were playing the Cowboys.
96, or whatever year that Super Bowl.
Yeah, whatever Super Bowl they were in, and he was throwing the ball directly to the guy. Nonetheless, the guy got paid by the Raiders. The Raiders overpay everybody. They overpaid him, and he never played well ever in life, but he had that one great Super Bowl game. It happens all the time.
Just like Deion Branch?
Deion Branch won the MVP of the Super Bowl.
The one quarterback for the Bucks, the quarterback Dexter Jackson, he did the same thing.
Dexter Jackson did the same. We can name a lot of guys that do that on the big stage.
Especially in that situation, a one-and-done situation. But even in a series, when you play for the Spurs, there is a chance that this can happen. So I don't know with a team like the Spurs if we should just look too much into this right now. But I'm rooting for the dude.
But Dev, I think your analogy might even be better. Because when you look at Deion Branch, he was a part of that Patriot system. He had that Super Bowl, got a nice piece of change. He went away from that system.
From Seattle. It was trash.
It was terrible. He came back to the Patriot system and played well again.
He just disappeared.
I mean, to use a more recent NBA example, shout out to Gary Neal. How's he doing?
Gary Neal.
You don't even know who he is.
Well last season.
He was on the finals last season. All of a sudden, you don't even know who that dude is anymore.
All right, so the last thing, because we do have, unlike a lot of other people, their whole conversation revolves around the Heat.
By the way, real quick, Dev, the dude's name was Larry Brown. His name was Larry Brown.
Okay. I remember that dude.
And he got paid out the wazoo and was terrible.
It was truck juice after that.
He won MVP of the Super Bowl, but,
How good do you think this Spurs team stacks up all time? We got to throw that out there. I mean, the way they played against the 2-time defending champions and just blew their doors off, you have to at least consider, what their place could be as far as, best teams in NBA Finals history.
No, you don't.
Do you guys, how far do you think they rank?
I think it has to marinate a little bit, but I think they're the best team, one of the best teams I've seen in the last 10 years. Easily.
I mean, 10 years, all time. I can name 10 teams that'll wipe the floor with them right now.
That's probably what I'm thinking too.
I can't wait to see the games.
But what I'm thinking, I know. I think, like Andy, what you're trying to say is when you say team, you really mean the epitome of team basketball. Because we can name a bunch of teams that from 1 to 10 have bigger names.
In this series, who would win? I mean, I think
put it that way. I can think of teams. I get a little bit nostalgic. I think of teams that would probably, wipe the floor with them, like Jimmy said. But.
Sure,
I can think of teams that didn't win the finals that'll wipe the floor with them.
But you know what's ironic about the whole thing? A week ago, we were comparing the Heat to one of the greatest teams of all time. Could they beat the first three-peat Bulls or the second three-peat Bulls since they were seeking a three-peat. Now the Spurs dismantled this team that we were just comparing to the Chicago Bulls. And I know a lot of people out there say, well, you shouldn't have been comparing them to the Bulls anyway.
Exactly.
But it's ironic how they just wiped the floor with this team, and we probably will be hard-pressed to find anybody who says the Spurs team is up there with the greats.
Yo,
I think the Spurs team could hold their own.
the second three-peat Bulls will beat them in 3 games. They won't show up for the 4th. Like, come on, man.
They beat them in 2.5.
I think to the fan, they have like that sentimental thing because of last year and because of the way they played, because of the ball movement, and like as fans, for some reason we always want to like downplay superstars, like we don't like them, like we like team ball better, even though everybody loves Michael Jordan and LeBron James and all that. So I think they get a little sentimental credit for that. And to be honest, it was one of the greatest displays of basketball I've ever seen in my life. That being said, I completely agree with Jimmy. I think the legendary teams would wipe the floor. The Celtics, the Lakers, the Bulls. I think they would wipe the floor with this team. Like it's hard to give them a chance, and it sounds ironic saying this because they just beat LeBron's Heat, but it's hard to give them a chance against a superstar Hall of Famer kind of team with one superstar Hall of Famer in their prime, like a Michael Jordan, like a Magic Johnson, and a supporting cast that actually follows them. I don't think they would have a chance against that kind of team.
A lot of the all-time great teams were deep, even when you went past the superstar names.
That's what I'm saying. You look at the Celtics from the 80s, like 4 out of the 5 starters are Hall of Famers. Like,
and that's been the
their
problem.
whole front court is Hall of Famers. And
That's
Dennis
been the
Johnson
problem
locked
with
down
the Miami Heat because, like we said, they paid most of their salary cap to 3 guys and then just tried to fill in the blanks. I mean, they did a good job of it over the last 4 years because, a lot of people getting up there in age who are still effective at what they do, they want that title. So this is the best chance they have to get that title. But even those guys got old over the last 2 years. Like Shane Battier was no factor.
But I think that what Miami did is like kind of the new way of having a dynasty, so to speak, because the old way is just gone. You'll never see it again. We thought the OKC would do it, but they couldn't even keep Harden for because of the way the system is set up now.
Yeah, so, you buy it, you try to run off like 3 in a row, and then you go pretty much try to retool again. So I mean, what they did was still a hell of an accomplishment. But I do want to salute the Spurs because they played great basketball. Where they rank historically, I ain't ready to crown them either. Yeah,
but
I think time will start to tell.
But they have been the best team this season from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. They had the best record in the league. So, I mean, they were the best team this season. Regardless of what anyone wants to say about Miami, the Spurs, from like day one until the end of the season, have been the best team in basketball.
I mean, we're gonna look back at them a little bit differently too. I think when Manu, Parker, Duncan are all Hall of Fame. I mean, Kawhi Leonard could even be a Hall of Famer. We don't know.
Crowning him.
No. We're not crowning him. I'm simply saying in 20
I'm joking.
years.
I got you.
If 20 years, if 4 of those guys are in the Hall of Fame, and
this is true.
But I
mean, the difference is that
we might look at that team completely differently. We're gonna be comparing teams to this team.
A quick rebuttal to that, Andy. What you're talking about though is like those Lakers team had 4 or 5 Hall of Famers in their prime. Like those Celtics teams had 4 Hall of Famers in their prime. Even if Manu, Tony, and Tim go to the Hall of Fame, they're not in their prime right now.
The Celtics in '86 were bringing Bill Walton off the bench, and he's a Hall of Famer. Now, at the time, he was just playing defense. He was a shell of himself, but he still was a productive player that season. Like, the teams back then were so stacked, and it's not. They didn't get together like the Heat did, but they still were stacked at a whole different level. I mean, there's levels to this, man. Talent. Yeah, the talent, like from top to bottom, was amazing.
I just want to my closing thought on this series is I wanted to shout out to Miami Heat for representing Boca Raton really well. They looked like they had a retirement home on their team. Shout out to them.
Have to move into Del Boca Vista. So Wade, like I said,
I mean that's why all players go to the Heat, though. I mean you're right there in Florida. You don't got to go far afterwards. You retire, stay there.
Wade's motto for the next few weeks is going to be "out my ass."
I blame Wade's injuries on those capris he was wearing.
Everything went downhill once he started to lead innings. But he was Brand Jordan. He still was flying.
Yo, the
But
plan
listen,
is to just go on the Heat and try to jump on LeBron's back and try to win a championship. It didn't work.
And I was talking to somebody today, and we were discussing the future for the Heat. If Wade opts out, then you know. If he opts out, then you know all of those guys are staying.
Yeah, if he opts out, Melo's coming to Miami. That's the only reason why Dwayne Wade's opting out.
If he opts out, you know that those guys are planning their future together again instead of doing their thing. If he doesn't, then it'll get interesting. It'll get interesting, and LeBron might end up in that purple and gold or.
Let's go, yo, and also, man,
you got Jimmy excited.
yo, because I do want to say this. We talked about how LeBron haters are out of control. I was joking about it after the game last night. I was like, yo, Heat fans, what y'all gonna do next year when LeBron's in purple and gold? And I had like some of my fellow Laker fans tell me, we don't want him. Who wants LeBron?
We don't want him.
One went as far as to tell me, listen, why would we get him? We should get Melo. I had to log off. I mean, listen, man, like, yo, they did lose a series, but yo, are you kidding me?
Yo,
Melo would pick LeBron over Melo. Why LeBron Melo?
Lala would take LeBron over.
Yo,
Look, Lala would take KG over. No.
Yo, Melo's mom would be like, all right, give me LeBron.
Yeah, and LeBron's mom would be like, give me Delonte West.
Oh. All right, so we're going to end it right there. All right, but yeah, it was a very, I think, altogether it was a whack NBA Finals. I mean, I thought last year's NBA Finals were kind of bad. It went 7, but
it was more dramatic at the end, though. Like, the drama was there.
And it got for the first round this year.
It saved, the Finals last year saved itself from itself. It started out good with Game 1. The middle 3 games were terrible, and it got dramatic at the end. This one was, I mean, the only people who loved these finals were Spurs fans and Heat haters. That they enjoyed every minute of it. If you don't have a dog in the fight and you're just looking for a good series, it wasn't that good of a series. So we hope we can come back and have a better NBA Finals next season. What I think it is, though, the Eastern Conference doesn't prepare you for that kind of stuff that the Spurs do.
If you don't have a dog in the fight, you can just
they posted through the season, almost coasted all the way through the playoffs, and then you get into the finals against a buzzsaw like that.
You're like, hold up, the Pacers don't do this.
Yeah, you're playing like single A ball the whole season. All of a sudden, they want you to go against Mariano Rivera in the bottom of the 9th. You're like, this ain't cool.
You're right, Dev. You're definitely right about that. Last thing I want to say is, shout out to everybody on Twitter, because without Twitter, this finals would have been terrible. Twitter saved the finals for me just because of the jokes.
Made it funny.
And then LeBron, prostate rubbers versus the haters going back and forth. You guys made it interesting, so shout out to Twitter for making the finals interesting.
Finally, Twitter made something better. I want to shout out Dante Exum. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
And everybody out there should be proud of us because we did this whole thing and we didn't get into that nonsense about cramp gate and heat gate and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's nonsense.
FOH.
So look,
that's why I'm drinking beer so I don't get cramps.
We're not completely done with you guys for the season because the NBA draft is coming up. So we'll definitely be back at you if we get any information on that. We'll do some stuff before that, but we'll definitely do something around the NBA draft. But it's been a great NBA season. I'm just saying that because I have to. I'm lying because I really feel.
Adam Silver, cut the check.
No, because I really do feel that NBA League Pass is one of my worst investments right now.
I'm not getting it next year. I refuse to. I'm done with y'all. Unless y'all give it to me for free, I'm done.
I love the obscure games, though. Those are the games I want to see.
Why? But they suck. I used to love that too. But
I love seeing the teams you don't see play, even if they're bad. Like I like to watch those teams. I get sick of watching the Lakers.
That was my whole point for the investment for the last 10 years. But
listen, man, it's
when
too
I'm
much
watching
good,
two teams that you don't see play, and their best player is like Frank versus Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's not exciting.
I watched that, though. I dig that.
The Spurs just demolished the 2-time defending champions, and people still say that they're boring. And they're not boring, but people are looking for star power.
Andy, listen, you got to understand.
LeBron and Mike and
I used to be the way you are, Andy, but it's too much good TV. It's too many good shows on now. Like, I can't find myself watching a Wizard versus Bucks game in the middle of the week because there's like 18 shows I could be watching.
Yeah, I can't watch the Bucks. I can't watch the Bucks.
I can't watch Kings versus Nuggets when Jack Bauer's on TV. You know what I mean? Like, Get out of here.
I'm looking at Boogie Storm 40
right now. And by the way, I just want to go on the record and say, yo, this 24 season is terrible. Yo, this is terrible. Yo, I'm like 3 episodes behind, and I struggle watching it. I can't watch this.
Goddamn, Jack Bauer saved the world 60 times, and they still don't believe him.
No, but that's why it's terrible. Already.
That show is super realistic, though.
They're like, yo, is he lying?
I'm like, yo, he saved like 6 presidents, man. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Terrible, boy. Terrible. I can't do it. Why they bring him back? It's a money grab.
Oh yeah. You know why? Because they were supposed to do a movie. I think this was probably scenes from the movie. They just said, let's just chop it up.
leave well enough alone, man. Like, yo, leave well enough alone.
So like I said, we'll be back at you guys for the NBA draft. I hope you guys had a good NBA season. You know, that's all that counts, I guess. So like we always tell you guys, we should have told you in the beginning, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the page so you know whenever a new Court Vision is coming out, since we will be on a bit of a hiatus. If you subscribe to the page, you'll get that information automatically without us having to bother you. So look, make sure you go check out sports-kings.com for all your sports needs, not just the NBA. Check out warroomsports.com. Don't be lazy. Browse around the site. See everything there is to see. Like we always tell you guys, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance.
We'll see you chumps on top.
Yo, U.S. government against Jack Bauer. You need more people.
Wait, it's the war room with 5 nights at the round table. 5 Philly guys, diversified and educated.